Hello and welcome to the Sustainable Healthcare Podcast. In this show, we talk about the decarbonization of the healthcare sector. The healthcare sector is responsible for between 4 and 6% of all global carbon emissions. And it's only going to go in one direction in the projected future, and that is up. That's why it's really important that we address this. The Sustainable Healthcare Podcast is brought to you by Green Innovation Group. We are a management consultancy that is dedicated to decarbonizing the healthcare sector. And today we are transmitting live from the Climate People meeting in Middelfart in Denmark. And for today's episode, or this episode, I have with me Gitte, who's working with Chiesi. Chiesi is the first global pharma company to achieve a B Corp certification. So we're going to talk about the B Corp certification today. Yep. But first off, Gitte, would you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes. My name is Gitte Larsen, and I'm working from Chiesi. And I've been in the industry for 20 years or more. And I started in Chiesi in 2017 as a key account manager. And the 2 last years, I've been working as a market access manager in Denmark. So, yes, that is who I am.
Cool. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
So Chiesi is the first global top 50 pharma company to achieve a B Corp certification, and that's really amazing that you went through this process. But could you share a little bit about Chiesi? What kind of company is it, and what's the company history?
Yes. Chiesi, first of all, I want to say thank you for inviting Chiesi to this so we can talk about B Corp, because we are quite proud of being have this certification as a B Corp. But who is Chiesi? Chiesi is a family in Italy, and it is a family-owned company. And in 1935, it was the chemist Giacomo Chiesi. He opened Chiesi down in Italy. And in 1966, his 2 sons took over the company. At that time, Chiesi was quite small. Mm-hmm. But in 1976, Chiesi launched the first inhaler product for treatment in the lungs. And that was the turning point of Chiesi. Because today it is an international company with research and development and manufacturing of pharmaceuticals.
And you have a number of different treatment areas. What are the key treatment areas that you're working with?
Yes, Chiesi has focus on the respiratory treatments, neonatologies, and rare diseases, and we have special treatments as well. And if you take respiratory, it is for COPD and asthma.
So it's everything, when you have trouble breathing,
yeah.
Chiesi has some solutions for patients that have poor lung capacity after having smoked, or people that generally have problems with breathing.
Yeah, if you have asthma. Because people, when you say COPD, many people think it is only when you have been smoking. Mm-hmm. But you can have COPD if you are a farmer, or if you are any kind of job with pollution and so on, you can have a COPD. So you don't have to be smoking to have it. It is just a lung disease, but it is a lung disease.
Okay.
And asthma, many people have asthma as well.
And that has to do with you have developed a drug that helps the function of the lungs.
I cannot talk about medicine at all, so we have to skip that. But we have neonatology, and that is for premature babies, and it is for the lung as well. When they get born, they are blue and they are quite small, and we give them our product, and they stay, we say, pink right away. So that is for the lung as well. And we have rare diseases. It is in Denmark. I think we have 10 patients, maybe that, but there's 5, maybe 6, 7, I don't know, about these rare diseases.
So that's the thing about rare diseases. Mm-hmm. It has to be, as the name suggests, very rare diseases for them to qualify to be in this treatment area. And it has, for some pharma companies I've been exposed to, it's been an area to look at, because by accident sometimes you can come across a treatment that's only applicable for very few patients, and then it kind of has to stay alive somehow, and then you would build a rare diseases development. And I've seen a lot of pharma companies that end up building a rare disease department whichever treatments that are not applicable to the wider population, but are for those unfortunate that have something really, really rare, but where maybe in some cases the business cases are not always great. So I know that the company is run as a benefit corporation in Italy at least.
Yeah.
Can you dive more into what is a benefit corporation?
Yeah, I will do
and
that.
How does that work?
But I just need to say that we are operating in Denmark and Norway, Sweden and Finland in the Nordic. And our headquarter in the Nordic is Stockholm, and we have a research center in Karolinska in Stockholm as well.
Yeah, okay.
Just
so there's a research collaboration going on with the Karolinska Institute.
Yeah. Yes. And I can tell you in 2019, a doctor, he's not a doctor, but Paolo Chiesi, one of the sons, he got an award at Karolinska for many years of commitment to this lung for mature-born babies. So he became Doctor of Honor of Karolinska.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
That is quite
nice. That is cool. But I mean, saving babies is really something to get an award from, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the benefit corporation, how does that work and why is that important?
Benefit and corporation is a company form and should not be confused with B Corp. That is two different things. And B Corp is a certification, and benefit corporation is a legal company form in Italy, France, and United States. Benefit and corporation is Chiesi is benefit and corporation in this country that is possible. Mm-hmm. And if we only take the B Corp certification we have here in the Nordic, it is a certification for company who wants to be a part of a high demand of responsibility and transparency and sustainability. Mm-hmm. And you have to know about B Corp. It is a holistic certification. It means that it is measures 360 degrees around the company. Mm-hmm. It is around the patient. It is around the employee. So that is a really hard certification to get.
So for those that are not familiar with the B Corp certification, I'm personally a trained B leader, so I'm trained in helping companies achieving their certification. I cannot grant the stamp of approval. It's a non-for-profit organization called B Lab that awards the certification. But we can, as B leaders, we can guide companies through those questionnaires that are there. And there's 220 questions that you need to answer and review, and they are divided across 5 different pillars. Yeah. So rather than just looking at the environmental side, you're looking at the environmental side, you're looking at your workers, you're looking at your clients or your customers, you are looking at the community, and you're looking at the governance models.
Yes.
So it's a very comprehensive model for reviewing a corporate entity and figuring out what's going on in the environment, what's going on with the workers, what's going on with the customers, what's going on in the community, and how is it governed. So it's really comprehensive, and if you divide those 220 questions out across the 5 categories, you're at 45 questions per category. Yeah. And just to put it into a context, when we're looking at one of the most recognized standards for supplier engagement right now, they have 21 points that they're reviewing on. Okay. And this is what's being rolled out as a global standard for certifying sustainability, you could say, or on environmental, social, and governance reporting. So when we scale that out to 220 questions, we have an insanely high level of detail. Meaning that it's a really complex process for a company as large as Chiesi to go through this process and obtain the certification in the other end. Yeah. So that's really, really impressive. And one of the things that they're reviewing is in the governance. And over here, being a benefit corporation, the Articles of Association demands of Chiesi to have a higher purpose than just bringing profit to the shareholders.
Yes.
And that's one of the elements that I find really interesting, that you're forcing the board of directors to look at the societal impact and the societal benefit when you're making decisions, rather than just looking at the profit for the next quarter. Yeah. When we're looking through the 5 pillars here, we have the governance, environment, workers, customers, and community. Can you give examples of how this segmentation has influenced how you do business in Chiesi?
Yeah. If you take customers first, it means the patient. The patient needs to have access to medicine, and the customers as well is the doctor. It is important that the doctor can focus on the right treatment for the right patient, and should not think of any negative impact on the climate. So that is customers, if you like me to give example. And if you take the community, what does it mean? It means giving back to the community. In Chiesi, we use 20% of our incomes to research and development, and we give to charity, and also in Denmark. And it is called COPD on street levels. It is people who live on the street, and they die 19 years earlier in the normal public.
Whoa, so a person living in the streets without a home that has this lung disease.
Yeah. No, not the lung disease. They just die. We know that
they, on average, they die 19 years earlier. Okay.
Yeah. But we are supporting them. It is a clinic, a bus driving around in the capital, and we always support a lung choir for people with lung diseases, so they can have a better quality of life. So that's what we do when we talk community in the local here in the Nordic.
And I think there's something that's quite interesting here, because when we're talking about drug companies and drugs, and we're looking at this segment of who's the customer, and then I mean a customer is really, in this context, it's an end user, because the customer never buys anything from Chiesi. No. They buy it from a pharmacy or they get it from a hospital. So, but at the end of the day, the responsibility as a company is to make sure the end user gets the best possible product, and that's the example here. I know you have also been working focused on the environment side. Can you give some examples of the work you have done there?
If you take the environment, I can tell that Chiesi want to be climate neutral in 35, and we on scope 1, 2, and 3. And we drive in electric cars. And when we have meetings, we serve
vegetarian?
Yeah, food. Yeah. So that is some of the small things we do. But I need to say, look in our sustainability report. It is a book that is on our homepage.
It's literally a book. It's quite comprehensive.
It is 175 pages. And you can look everything up about Chiesi, the scoop, you can 1, 2, and 3, and you can see the employees, how is it men or women, or the ethic, a lot of things. You can see climate and
so you can see your diversity and inclusion performance, not just your strategy, but also how well you're doing. You can see it on environment. You can see it on all across the pillars.
And I think this is important when you use a B Corp. You can go into B Corp and see all the reports, so you can see how good we are on different things.
Yeah, and really dive into the score as well, and see, okay, how are you doing on governance? How are you doing on environment, etc. That's one of the things I really like about it. There was you told me about a case that came up about the car washing.
Yeah.
That I just found really funny, because you don't really think that much about environmentalism and sustainability around car washing, right? It's a little bit of an odd one out. But of course, if you have a commercial car fleet, you have to wash the cars every once in a while. So how did that go about when you were looking into this and finding an environmental car washing deal?
But it is not easy. It is not easy. I've been trying to call all of them and say, what can you say? What is? And they just say, they are the best and they do this. And I cannot find anything about it. So I think it is difficult for the customer to... We like to choose the best one. And it is difficult to find. But we are in Chiesi working some pathways. Every employee in Chiesi has to be on a pathway where we work. I have climate, so you cannot take a flight if there is less than 4 hours in a car. So this year we've been working on, you can only have 1 cup a day at the office to waste water. And we try a lot of small things, but it is difficult when you say car wash because it is a jungle.
Yeah, I can only imagine, because in going through our own B Corp certification, I've become the person that's pestering our corporate cantina. You know, I'm writing the folks in charge of the coffee that gets into the coffee machines, and there's just a lot of, when you go through 220 questions, a lot of things become apparent that you weren't necessarily paying a lot of attention to before. So now we have a breastfeeding policy, for instance. It's it's one of those things that we're a company where we have male founders, so we have never been breastfeeding, and we've never had the view to breastfeed on the job. So it's not top of mind to have a policy like that. But what I think the B Corp framework does really well is forcing you to take action and consider these things. And when I advise on taking on this journey of getting a certification in B Corp, I'm telling owners and boards that you have to be prepared that this is also going to open up a lot of very difficult conversations. For instance, are you going to give your employees access to share capital? Are you going to have an even pay structure? What are you going to do to make sure that you have diversity and inclusion in your recruitment strategies? You know, there's just so many little intricate things in these 220 questions that are really questioning the way we do business. But
I think, I know you mentioned it, but when you have this certification and you send it in, it is a non-profit organization that sit and look at it, and you cannot buy it. You have to earn it, and you cannot just, okay, we are B Corp now, so I'm home safe. No, you have to do it again.
Feisty. They're feisty. They're really.
You have to do it again. Every third year, you have to take the assessment tool one more time, and that's
And
so you have
and they raise the bar constantly, because they reevaluate the questions and add new elements in. So something that was added recently was reporting on biodiversity and the measures that you're taking there. So they also figure out what's the next frontier, and then they mature the tool in order for that to stay up to date, you can say. And I think that's just a really great method to approach sustainability with, because it is, if you don't put it into a solid framework, it becomes a little bit intangible. And then you have, on one hand, you don't know if you should change the coffee beans or if you should switch to renewable electricity in your production sites. And there this framework is having a weighted point system where it's also built on a hypothesis that you should do what awards the most points first, because that is the overall highest sustainability benefit from a certain lens, of course. But that just means that switching to renewable electricity will award you a lot of points, because it makes a really big difference.
It does.
But it's also a relatively easy thing to do, because it's commoditized. So you can buy renewable electricity in many instances. What is more difficult is finding a sustainable car wash supplier, for instance, or some of those other quirky problems that appear all of a sudden, where you have no idea how to go about it, because it's not commoditized yet. And that's when we, as companies that want to be B Corp certified, we can put that pressure down in the supply chain and say, hey, we're actually demanding for this service or this good. So when you're looking at it now, you're out on the other side and have achieved the certification, and once again, congratulations on that. It's very few pharma and medtech companies that have gone down that journey, because it's quite the journey. What's the biggest advantage that you have seen from taking the certification?
Advantage, I don't know how to explain that, but there's a lot of benefits. If it is, one of them is that we have this positive focus on a high level of sustainability. So when people apply for a job in Chiesi, they choose Chiesi because we have this sustainability, focus on sustainability. And yes, that is one, because people want to work in a company where they can feel good and have some purpose for the work. And I think that is important as well. So that is one. And we have made a sustainability manifest in Sweden, in the industry, pharmaceutical industry, called LIF, where we have, worked together with them. And it is a good way to be more sustainability. We have to do it in a faster way. And if Chiesi like to help the Nordic, as Denmark and Finland and Norway, to have this kind of manifest, because it is quite important, so we can show them what we have to work with. So, yeah.
Yes, we can actually spread it out and share the methods and the tools and the frameworks to move on. I think that's a really good, really good point.
But I need to say, when we talk about sustainability in Denmark, we always think about environment, but sustainability is more than that. It is environment, government, social sustainability, and the economic sustainability. I think that is important to say, because people be confused and think always climate.
Yeah, no, of course, and that's why the 5 pillars are really an interesting aspect to bring in there. Where it's one thing is, how is the corporate governance? Is it run? The more democratically it's run, the more voting rights you have for the work takers, and the more even pay structure you have, the more points you're awarded in the B Corp framework. So the ultimate model is one where the employees are also owning the corporate entity, and that's of course something that takes some time to get there, or to make those changes in the governance structure, and build those employee share structures and figure out what should their voting rights actually be in it. And you mentioned also that this process made you change the pension system that you have. So that would be another aspect of sustainability to look at when we're remunerating the workers. We also, as an employer, actually have a responsibility to figure out, how does the social security work? How does the health insurance work? And now you're in 70 countries, so it's very different. I mean, in Denmark, the government pays for basically everything in healthcare, but in some of those 70 countries, it's probably private health insurance.
Yeah, it's true.
In such geographies, the B Corp system will award extra points if you take care of your workers. Yeah. And that's about the social sustainability. And then the voting rights, of course, is within governance, and the access to healthcare would be within the customer category. So there's just so many things to latch onto that are also very geography dependent, of course. So that's one level of reflection that I've had, that they have this non-applicable score. So our company, Green Innovation Group, is registered in Denmark. We pay taxes in Denmark. Our employees pay taxes in Denmark. So we have a lot of non-applicable score points in the B Corp certifications, because the Danish government takes care of health insurance, takes care of schooling and daycare and all of these things. Yeah. Where if you're in the United States, for instance, there's a lot of points to be awarded if you behave properly and take care of the people that are working for you. Yeah. And I think that's really, really cool for countries where the nation state doesn't necessarily protect its citizens to the same degree as we have tradition to do in the Nordics. I think the last thing I have to ask you, Gitte, is if there are any pharma or medtech companies out there that are considering getting a B Corp certification or entering the certification process, what would be your advice for them?
I hope they will follow us. Also because we have this big green heart, and I hope they have us as well. And we know it is hard work, a long journey, and many hours you have to put in here. But remember, sustainability is not a competition. I think that is important to say, because all companies talk about it. It is not a competition. It is more like a mindset. You have to want to work with this. So come on. Go.
Jump on the train. Call Gitte if you have any questions.
Yes, please do.
Cool. Gitte, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing Chiesi's journey to becoming B Corp certified. It was a great pleasure to have you on.
Thank you.
And I learned a lot from the process, so thanks a lot for being here.
Thank you.
You have listened to the Sustainable Healthcare Podcast live from the People's Climate Meeting in Middelfart. This was the second of 3 episodes that we are transmitting live from this People's Meeting. It was a great pleasure to have you here. Thanks for tuning in. We have another episode coming up in 30 minutes. Cheers.